We're entering a very strange world at the moment where what people are saying is not necessarily what they mean, and it's something I find detestable. Now, this afternoon, Sajid Javid, who's somebody I quite admire, I like him. He's a hard worker, he's done a lot of jobs, he's had a lot of ministerial responsibility. Sajid Javid has gone into Parliament and he's made a decision about the compulsory jabbing of NHS staff. Frontline staff are now supposed to have the COVID jab. Now, at the moment, 103,000 NHS staff have been are unvaccinated. Sajid Javid has announced that by the 1st of April 2022, that would be the deadline when they should all either be vaccinated or lose their job. It's not entirely that clear, because he's also said that if they are not vaccinated, the people who don't have direct contact with patients don't need to be vaccinated. So I suppose they could be moved to a backroom job. Now, the bit which I find really disturbing, because I'm sure there will be plenty of people making videos saying that, yes, vaccination should not be compulsory, or vaccination is a bad thing. I'm not getting into that debate. What I'm more concerned about is the language which is used. So Sajid Javid says no one should be shamed or scapegoated, but instead they should be supported to make a positive choice. Now, when you analyse that language, that's just some sort of dressing up. It's using language, positive language, to dress up a negative threat. Unless you get the jab, you will lose your job. You are being forced. This is smoke and mirrors. This is not clear, transparent language. It's really disturbing. And if this sort of language can be used here, it can be used elsewhere. And when you're looking at parliamentary democracy, you should be looking at something which is using language of clarity. So this seems to me to be illogical and dishonest. People are being shamed. They are being scapegoated. They will lose their job if they don't make this positive case, or if they don't accept this positive case and get an injection. It is going to be compulsory. Now, it is already compulsory in the care sector. So by Thursday, anybody who has not had the double jab will presumably lose their job in the care sector, or they will be moved to backroom employment. Now, we know that 25% of caregivers are so far unvaccinated. This means, is it 117,000 staff? Now, we also know that some of them have moved into the NHS, because the NHS so far doesn't demand this vaccination immediately. Now, this follows something which was written yesterday in the Daily Telegraph by our friend Matt Hancock, he of the stationery cupboard department and the Wandering Hands. Why would we listen to Matt Hancock? Yet maybe Matt Hancock had just placed this article in the Daily Telegraph so that people might think that Sajid Javid is listening to him. What a crafty man Matt Hancock is. He seems to have his hands everywhere. Desperate to be relevant again. To be relevant in this way, with this level of deceit. Maybe that is the sort of thing Matt Hancock does very well. It is disturbing. Now, we're told that this compulsion violates potentially Articles 8 and 14 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which maybe we are no longer going to be following because we're out of Europe, but we are following it at the moment. But it gets back to a much bigger question about, do our employers own our bodies? Who has a right to my body? This is sort of medieval coercion that we are finding ourselves within. But it's being presented to us in the language of choice, when there is actually no choice. And it's that deceit which is so disturbing and so deplorable. It's doublespeak. This is 1984. So I put my cards on the table. I have been double vaccinated and I'm looking forward to a booster. I think the vaccination program is a good thing. I have friends who think it's a bad thing. This is not what this video is about. This video is about language which is being used to convey one idea, but actually it's doing something else. This is about the distortion of language. It's not about whether somebody should or shouldn't be compelled to have the vaccine. And I believe this is the thin end of a very, very pernicious wedge. Once we cannot rely on the language which we are using, we cannot rely on the language which we're using anyway. We've seen this in the way bureaucracy has been steamrollering through our society, certainly in the last year, but I would say in the last 20 years. And now it's finally got into Parliament in a magnificent way. And Sajid Javid has ushered it in, and I expected more of this man. So I am very, very disturbed. I'd really like to know your opinion about this, and specifically about this use of language. So this really isn't a free-for-all to tell me about your approval or disapproval of COVID vaccines. So please, by all means, do. But the focus here is on the abuse of language. So please follow my channel and do ring the bell. It makes me so happy in these distressing times. Ring the bell.